All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified channel. Today's topic is going to be production talk yet again. The last one went over really well. I think a lot of people learned a lot of stuff, and that's what we're all about around here. So this is going to be part 2, and today we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on an older song of mine. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be some moments of utter shame as this is an older song. Anywho, before we get into that, let's give a little shout out to some individuals who are severely awesome in my book. These are individuals who have helped to sponsor the channel through the super chat feature that's found in your chat section at the lower left-hand corner. And these are also some individuals, if you'll look on the right-hand side, if you see an icon there that looks like the Patreon logo, they're Patreon members. They help to support the channel monthly. And also, if they have the little YouTube logo, they are YouTube members, which they also help to support the channel monthly. If you are a YouTube member, I would encourage you to go over to Patreon and sign up for a Patreon membership, honestly, and just cancel your YouTube membership, because basically, if you're giving $1.99 a month, I'm getting 10 cents is pretty much how it's equating. So if you want to make YouTube richer, that's fine. Go ahead and stay as a YouTube member. Either way, I greatly appreciate it. So thank you to each and every one of you who have given in some way, shape, or form. You all rock. Speaking of giving, let's give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode. Today's video is sponsored in part by the 𝗏𝗧 Academy. The 𝗏𝗧 Academy offers affordable courses from mentors, world-class engineers, Grammy winners, and multi-platinum selling producers. And with the resources available on the 𝗏𝗧 Academy, you can learn how to create radio-ready mixes from the comfort of your own home studio. Most of the courses also offer multi-tracks that you can then add to your portfolio and begin to build out your business. Follow the link in the description of this video to head on over to the 𝗏𝗧 Academy today and start learning the skills that are needed to take your hobby or your business to the next level. All right, so welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about some production tips. Now, last time we covered about 7 tips, and these were things that were mindsets. They were things that a lot of times were often overlooked when it comes to music production. However, they were all very needful, and I know some of them were kind of subjective. Some of them were kind of taboo, if you will. And then we actually went through a song and we broke it down piece by piece, and we talked about the production elements in the song and how you can get your productions to be more exciting, more entertaining, to draw the listener in. And then we talked, most importantly, about this element in all music that is sort of the ebb and the flow, the give and the take, the tension and the release. Now today, we're going to dive into much like we did last time. And if at any time you have questions, feel free to ask them. That's what this show is all about as well. We want to make sure that you get the most out of this show that you possibly can while you're here. So if you have a question, please do not hesitate to ask. Okay. So before we even get into any of this, though, I want to give a quick shout out to some individuals who are in the chat. I see a couple of newbies. This is awesome. I'm going to probably butcher this name, but 𝗶𝗅 991, good to have you. And then it looks like 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝘃. I know I'm butchering that one. Good to have you as well. If you're new here, all first timers will get a crowd chant, little crowd cheer. So thank you guys for being here. Greatly appreciate it. Bop Studios, he's no stranger around here. Good to have you, buddy. And Mob the Gamer, of course, is no stranger as well. Good to see him in the chat. And I think that just about covers everything I see in the chat right now, so that's always good. Let's go ahead and, oh, hey, look, we got a featured comment here. Someone said, nice mug. Well, thank you. I've been working, no, you meant this mug. Oh, okay, gotcha. I should have known you weren't talking about this mug, because this mug needs to shave and take naps, and I'm tired. Anyway, I nailed it. Right on. Good deal. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start diving into some of these tips. Like I said, these are going to be like kind of off the wall, some of them, but I think at the end of the day, you're going to look at this and you're going to go, I actually learned something from that. So let's go ahead and dive into some of those. All right. Trying to make sure I can give you all ample time to get ready here. All right. So tip number 1 that we're going to be talking about today, which technically, if we're starting part 2, it's actually going to be tip number 8. So yeah, then there's that. So tip number 8 that we're going to be talking about today is about mastering. Now you're probably thinking, well, what does this have to do with production? However, you have to realize that when we talk about production, production is everything, the full scope of all entities and parties involved. Most of the days, like we talked about last time, most of the time these days, we are the recording engineers. We are the mixing engineers. We are the mastering engineers. We're pretty much a jack of all trades. And so whenever we start a project, we have to think of this project as a whole. And so if you start your productions with mixing in mind, if you start your productions with mastering in mind, you're going to be more mindful of your levels. You're going to be more mindful of the resonances that are picking up in the microphones from the room. And then obviously we're going to be, really being mindful of just every single thing that we're doing. Now, mastering, however, is not like some mysterious, ethereal thing out there. Literally all mastering is doing is, for the most part, bringing things up and making it louder, matching industry standards. Now, that's a slap in the face to mastering engineers, because that's not all that mastering is, but that's the majority of what mastering does, is just simply brings all of your production elements and everything within the mix, and a finely polished mix, brings it into a place where now it can be listened to back to back on the radio or on your, iTunes, whatever it might be. And it's not going to be a dramatic drop in the whole, volume level. And it's also not going to be a dramatic boost in the volume level, so that you end up finding something that's like blowing your eardrums out, with the next song. Like say your song comes on and it blows someone's eardrums out. They're not going to be as likely to listen to that whole song, and then you've lost their attention. So mastering does that. It also, one individual, I believe it was Bob Katz, legendary mastering engineer, he said that mastering to him was like putting the bow on a package. And literally that's what it is. It's like, so mastering also takes care of making sure that things will translate better on a wide variety of sources, whether it be earbuds, PA system, your car, the small speaker in the ceilings at your workplace, whatever it might be. Mastering takes care of a lot of those things. So I don't want to just negate all of those things that mastering is by saying all it does is make things louder. But intrinsically, at the end of the day, the main thing that mastering is for making things louder. So the thing that I want to get across to you, though, is don't approach mastering as something that you cannot do. You absolutely can do it. And there are services out there that will do it for you. I have to kind of honestly steer clear of some of those. Lander is one of them that comes to mind just right off the bat, that when you put music into it, sometimes it actually does produce some pleasing results. But then for the most part, what I've found is it crushes dynamics and it just sounds like a computer did it. And so music and music production in and of itself is a thing that's created by people for people. And so why would we hand it off to a machine hoping that that machine is going to have a human touch? Because really, at the end of the day, the human touch is what makes a song. I mean, think about it. For instance, with MIDI recording, everyone is always wanting to know, how do I get my MIDI to sound real? Even though it's a quote unquote fake instrument, how do I get it to sound real? So the end result is always searching for realism. So then why would we hand it off to a mastering algorithm? So that's just my thought on it. kind of an old school thought, I guess. I've always been kind of told I'm an old soul anyway. I'm an old school guy trapped in a young school body, supposedly, which now that can't be said anymore because I'm approaching 40 years of age. But with all that being said, eventually, after you do things enough, and we talk about this on this channel a lot, the best way that you can get better at whatever it is that you're doing, whatever genre of music you're working in, is just to create a bunch of it. Just keep churning out mix after mix after mix, song after song after song, master after master. You're going to make some bad songs. You're going to make some bad mixes. You're going to make some bad masters. But at the end of the day, the more that you mess up, the better you're going to get. And, you know, I've learned more from my mistakes than I've ever had from watching a YouTube video. And that's kind of shooting myself in the foot because here I am like, hey, watch my YouTube video. But, you know, I'm getting ready to pull the blanket off of some of this as well. Most of you know that this channel is very polarizing in the sense that I say a lot of things on this channel to save people money. And there are companies that don't like that. I say a lot of things on this channel to sort of dive into the hidden esoterical things that some of the older hats like to set on. And that has actually caught me some flack from some mix engineers who are of the old school ways of, you know, don't tell your secrets. I guess they feel like they're magicians. You know, a magician never tells how to do the trick, but I don't want to be that guy. I want to be like the guy. Who was that guy years ago? Yeah, I'm getting sidetracked, but it's okay. Who was that guy? The masked magician that was giving away all the secrets and everybody was so mad at him. But there were people like me that were tuning in and being like, wow, that's how they did that. That's super cool. And it made me appreciate magicians more. Not, you know, it didn't depreciate what they're doing. So that guy needs a muffler. I apologize if you just heard that Boeing B-17 bomber drive by. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the mastering. Now, let's get on to tip what would be number 9. And this one is yet again something that I feel like you should do right off the bat. Buy a quality sample pack as soon as possible, or download even a free one. There are tons of free ones. I know Warren Hewart has a free sample pack for drums. The Cymatics website, they have free sample packs. There are free sample packs that used to come with Cakewalk Sonar Platinum, I believe. But sample packs are going to help to accentuate your productions in the sense that it's going to be one of those things where you don't really think that you need them until you have them and you have those sounds to reach for and to grab for. Especially when it comes to drums, because a lot of times drums, no matter how good they're recorded, a few samples here and there in a drum track can really just make that snare crack and pop. Or it can make a kick drum thump and bump like you're wanting it to. Let's say, for instance, you're handed tracks, and this has actually happened here recently, so I can say this, you know, real life experience here. I recently just had a track that was handed to me where the kick drum was just very bassy, but there was no head on the kick drum. So it was hard for me to get that kick drum to really poke through a mix because it sounded great soloed. It had that boom, boom, boom sound effects provided by Robert McClellan. Boom. But it didn't have the clack, clack, boom. You got to have the two together to really get it to sound, at least in this mix. Not always, but in this mix, the two needed to be married. And so what I literally did was I grabbed something from a sample pack, which was actually a gunshot, the things that you'll use in music production. It was actually a gunshot sound effect, and I applied it to the kick drum. But I cut off the beginning and the end of it so that all I had was literally just the transient spike of the initial gun blast. And you put those two together, and now the kick drum just set where it needed to set. Sounded like a kick drum, sounded nice. Didn't sound like a gunshot, but it sounded nice. It sounded really nice. So get yourself a good sample pack. It's going to help you in the long run. We're gonna blow through these. We're on number 10 now, and then I'm going to go and check out the comment section here in just a second, so don't think that you're being missed. Now, if you do have a question that you want to make sure, absolutely positively sure that it gets answered, use the super chat feature. You can use anything from, I think, 99 cents and up, and that will actually push that to the top of my chat and force me to see that if it's something that you didn't. That way I don't miss it. So let music that you don't like or understand begin to warm up to you. This is tip number 10, okay? Chances are, like, let's say you're not into jazz. You're not a jazz person, okay? Not all jazz, I love jazz, but not all jazz is my kind of jazz, okay? There are some Miles Davis songs that I absolutely love, and then there are some that I cannot stand simply because it sounds too jazzy. Now there are other individuals who make smooth jazz, absolutely love it. It's very relaxing. There's no they still have the improvisation. You can hear the syncopation in the drums and the different elements that are just sort of combating with one another, but in a musically tasteful way. But then there's some jazz that is like so combative, and the syncopation and the timing and everything is off purposely because it's jazz. And I can't get with it. However, what I have noticed is if you listen to genres of music or even songs that you haven't liked before, if you listen to them long enough with a critical ear, you're going to learn some things from that. And 9 times out of 10, what you'll find is there's actually some elements of it that you actually find pretty cool. So, and you can borrow from those things. What we talked about that last time about, don't write off something just because you hate it. Learn from it and then build off of that. So tip number 11, and yes, I'm flowing through these very quickly, but tip number 11 is repetition and minimalism are very important, but don't use them as an excuse to ignore production elements. Don't use them as an excuse to ignore polishing what you have. So it would be very easy to lay down a 4-bar guitar track and just loop the tar out of that thing and say, there it is. Guilty. I've done it before. And what I noticed, though, is yet again, what comes back to that human element, the ear has a tendency to notice when something is the same after the 3rd or 4th repetition. And eventually, whether we know it or not, sometimes unwittingly, even to the listener, they begin to get bored with that because it's too much repetition. So what we need to do in instances like that is vary things up. And even if all you have is a 4-chord, a 4-bar sampled loop or something that you're working with, there are actually ways that you can even get by with making that sound different every single time. For instance, if you have 4 bars, let's say you have 1 chord on each bar. I'm just going out there on a limb. And you repeat that. You copy it rather. You go to repeat it. Maybe you repeat it the same once. You don't want to overstep this, okay? And then the second time, you've got 1 chord on each of the 4 bars. You just simply split that into 4 sections. And now, just kind of rearrange things timing-wise just a little bit, okay? Like shift 1 10 samples to the left, shift another one 12 samples to the right. I'm not talking like to where it's going to be out of time, but just enough to make it different. And then maybe you could use automation. There's different ways you can do this. Automation, effects that only come on with the 3rd repetition. You could use, especially if it's double tracked. Now this is where it can be awesome. If it's double tracked, and what I mean by that is you've recorded a full take or even a 4-bar loop with 1 guitar, you go back and you record another 4-bar loop of the same chords, maybe a variation of that, with the same chords would be best in this instance, with a different guitar. because you want to pan them hard right, hard left. You want to get the wide stereo width that you can get. Now that you have essentially 2 tracks, 4 bars, 4 chords, now you can actually take the one chord from the one and drop it down here, and take the other one, drop it up here. And so you now, with those 4 measures, those are the 4 bars and the 4 chords, you've got an infinite number of possibilities pretty much, where you can just swap them out each time and get different sounds. Does that make any sense? And the reason why you would do that is just yet again to create a human element. Now, what I would arguably say is it would be so much easier to just go back and record a full take twice. All that editing would be gone. However, if at the same time you don't have that option, say the artist only sent you what they sent you, that's another way that you can actually do this to create realism, add humanity back into it, because now the humanity is taking that, splitting it up, moving it around, making it sound different. I hope that all made sense, because I think that's one of those where if it wasn't something actually visibly seen, it might be missed. So if it's something that I touched on here that you're like, dude, that didn't make any sense to me, I can even go back if I need to and do a complete video, or even maybe if we have time today, I'll actually demonstrate it. So, all right. So that was tip number 11. Basically, repetition and minimalism is fine, but don't let it rule the day. Don't let it rule the production. Don't let it rule the mix. Realize and understand that at the end of the day, you have to put in the work if you want to get a good song. Okay. I don't think that's too much to ask for individuals like yourselves who really want to do the best that you can do. And I believe that most of you who are here in the chat, I know most of you, you all already are producing some amazing music. So just keep it up. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to check out some of these comments here. Take a brief break here. Let me scroll back through here. Let me see if I can bring up the chat's comment screen here. And as usual, none of the comments come on the screen until after the fact. Okay, we'll come back here. Let's see. Oh, Mike Malagi's nice. First timer. So Mob the Gamer asks, let me get this up on the screen so you all can see this. Make sure that we are on the level here. There we go. So Mob the Gamer asks, what about stem mastering? Okay, so essentially stem mastering is a little bit different from a normal mastering project. What I mean by that is normal mastering project will be a 1 file, stereo track file that is the official final signed off on mix, just the 1 file. Now where stem mastering comes in, and some mastering engineers, myself included, have asked for stems at times because it's easier to get a better sound, or even to fix something that might be poking out or not accentuated enough. So with stem mastering, essentially what they do is they take the buses. Like let's say they have a drums bus, they export that as a stem. And which, by the way, the difference between, and I think this probably needs to be brought up too, the difference between multi-tracks and stems is that stems are a group of tracks that are then exported into one, whereas multi-tracks are all of the tracks in the project exported separately. So whenever someone says there's multi-tracks to download and to mix with, that's what they mean. You have all of the separate audio tracks. We just recently did a mix competition here on the channel, which the judges are still weighing in on all of the excellent mixes that were presented. Thank you guys so much for doing an awesome job. So much talent represented. It's going to be hard to pick a winner. But each one of those individuals got multi-tracks to mix a song that we just collaborated on here on the channel. And the winner will get a free package of kilohertz plugins. So keep your fingers crossed if you got a submission. Now, with that being said, stem mastering, like let's say the individual, the mastering engineer, he gets that single stereo file and the drums just aren't punching like he'd like them to. But he doesn't want to go in with an EQ because he could potentially harm other frequencies in the mix and boost, 2000 kilohertz and hope that he's going to get that snare to crack a little bit better, or 1800 kilohertz. So what he'll do is he'll say, okay, well, actually, can you send me the stems for the drums, the drum stems? And so what he's asking for, essentially, is basically the mixed down version of just the drums bus. And then he can put that underneath that stereo file and blend it in to taste and get the snare to crack without affecting frequencies he's only adding to. So I hope that makes sense. Great question, though. Mob the Gamer's always got great questions. Okay, so Mike, he says, what's up, man? Love your channel. It's been extremely helpful. I have a question about the system memory usage in Cakewalk. I have 12 gigabytes of RAM, which should be good, but I have heard that SSDs help. Absolutely. So 12 gigs is about the industry standard nowadays, given the fact that everything is sort of getting beefed up more when it comes to RAM. So your RAM is literally random access memory. It has nothing to do so much with actually storing things permanently. So the more RAM that you have, the more that your program is able to pull from different things at the same time. And the more RAM that you have, it's almost as if you're creating sort of a faster memory. It would be like maybe if you were well versed in a certain book and someone asked you a question. If you had more knowledge or more RAM of that book, you would be able to answer the question faster than someone who had never read the book, because they would have to go and find it through the pages. Whereas you would already have cataloged where it's at. So that's sort of what RAM is doing. It's cataloging where certain things are when a program is opened, and it draws from those whenever it needs them quickly. Now with an SSD, I noticed a huge leap in the way that my computer performed when I switched to SSDs. Game changer. Any of you who are listening, if you want to improve the performance of your PC or your Mac, for that matter, if you're using a Mac, switch out those old hard drives for SSDs. You're going to see some huge gains. And the reason for that is because the old hard drives, they have a disk, and then they have almost like a record player. They have a small needle that will go across that disk and reads information as you're pulling it, writes information as you're writing it, and copies information, does all of that, but it's got mechanical moving parts, whereas an SSD, it literally stands for a solid state drive. So it's almost like a flash drive. And the reason why they called them flash drives is because they were faster. And so without the moving parts, for one, you have integrity of the product. You don't have to worry about that needle, those moving parts breaking. All hard drives have, even SSDs do have a shelf life, but it's way longer than old hard drives are. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive underneath my desk right now that's holding audio files and pictures and everything. And about every 2 years, I get this nervous tick, and I'm like, I've got to go buy another hard drive. Well, now, the next time that I go out and do that, I'm going to be converting that to a solid state drive, and I won't have to worry as much. So, but you will get huge gains, by the way, from switching to SSDs. 12 gigabytes of RAM should get you there if you're working on smaller projects. If you're working on anything like 60 tracks and above, you're going to probably need more than that. I would say 16 to even 32 if you can swing it, if your computer will allow it. 𝗪𝘆𝗪𝘀 991 says, I'm sure 12 gigabytes RAM is going to be fine, even working with audio. In my opinion, a good CPU with a single core processing in mind is more important most of the time. Okay, so that wasn't really a question. It was just more of a comment too. Cool. That's good. Keep all the conversations going. How old were you when you began music production? Okay, that's a very interesting question. It looks like I have frozen. Yes, it looks like I have frozen on the screen effectively. Let's see if I can fix that. If not, no big deal. You guys don't need to see me anyway. Oh, wow. Okay, I just decided to quit working altogether. Anywho, 𝗪𝗏𝗧𝗿991 says, how old were you when you began music production? So I was 13 when I received my first guitar. And then I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. You're going to see some errors on my screen because I'm trying to reset this. So about 14 or 15, after about 6 or 7 times of me picking the guitar up and putting it down, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and stick with this. There we go. And I did. I stuck with it. So to answer your question, ever since I was 15, I started writing and recording my own music, and get this, on old tape decks. And I would record one track on the tape, take the tape out, put it into another stereo tape deck, put another blank tape back into my little courtroom style tape recorder, and play this one and overdub on top of it on this one, and just backwards and forwards. And then when I finally found out about digital music production, and because I always thought it was super duper expensive, and I thought there's no way I'm ever going to be able to afford that, that's whenever it was just mind blowing. That's whenever I was just like, oh my goodness, there's like infinite possibilities here. And so I think it was it was called Acid Music Studio, was my first ever quote unquote DAW. And that blew my mind. And it came with a lot of samples too. So that helped me to get my chops up as far as like cutting and pasting and crossfading clips and editing and things like that. So, but then from there, it just gradually kept getting better and better. I graduated into Magic's Music Studio, which was atrocity now that I look back on it. And then I found out about Audacity, and I was like, wow, this one's free, but it still was very, very limited. Wasn't able to do what I needed it to do. At that point, I was kind of just okay with using Acid Music Studio when I was 17. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. This whole music production on a computer just isn't for me. But what I ended up doing after that was I went and bought a Boss BR800 because I'm a guitar player. It's got 4 tracks that you can record to straight to the thing. And I was like, there we go. I'll just do away with the whole computer thing altogether, and I'll just get this. Come to find out, it came with a free version of Sonar LE, which has been evolved over the years to where it is what you're seeing now on the screen, Cakewalk by BandLab. And so once I found out about that, I was hooked. I was like, oh my goodness, there's so much you can do with this, so much potential. So to answer your question, it's been over 20 years. I always tell people it's been 20 years just because everything before those 20 years was just kind of learning. I don't really ever think I was really doing any music production before then. I was just kind of tinkering around. So I'm 39 now. I was 17 when I started. So that'll give you a little insight on that. Okay. 𝗪𝗂𝗍𝗂𝘀, good to see you in here, buddy. He is from Northern Canada. I love Canadians. Rush was my favorite band growing up, by the way. Okay. All right. So 𝗪𝗧𝗂𝗃991 also has another question. He says, when it comes to saving money, can I speak here about a newcomer free VST that I fell in love with lately? Absolutely. Share that bad boy. I'm sure we'd like to hear it. Okay. Spitfire Audio Labs. Free. Yes. I'm actually getting ready to check that out in depth. So, what would you think a realistic investment in hours is to actually use Cakewalk by BandLab reasonably efficiently? Let me see if I understand exactly what you're saying, Captain Odd, which, by the way, thanks for coming by the channel today. First timer. So a realistic investment in hours is going to be different for everybody because everyone's learning curve is a little bit different. But what I would say is, when it comes to my workflow, I actually work a little bit slower than most people do because I am a perfectionist. But the more that you know your tool, the easier it becomes and the faster you can get. And then you can start creating sort of speed hacks, which is pretty much what my rocket fuel mixing bundle course is all about, is speed hacks. We're on session number 4. We'll be starting session number 5 tomorrow. And we've already got individuals who have never wrote a song in their entire life using Cakewalk by BandLab. And now they've got a song to show for it already within 4 sessions. Now, these are 4 one-hour Skype sessions. And then with the rocket fuel mixing bundle, you also get every tutorial that I have. So these individuals are already telling me, one individual's name is Zed, who's in the group. He said, I have been more productive in the last 4 sessions than I've been in the last 4 years. So we learn all kinds of productivity hacks in there to get you faster. So I would definitely check that out if that's something that you think you might be interested in. It is a little bit of a higher priced tier, just simply because it's everything that I have to offer. And also it's 6 hours of my time. That's 6 hours of one-on-one Skype call, 1 hour at a time, 6 different times. And I walk you through the process. We take people by the hand. We give you homework so that you can go and actually apply what you learn. You don't just learn it and, like you do with videos. Oh, I learned it. And then you forget it 5 minutes later. This actually, you have homework. So you're being held accountable to yourself and to the people in the group. It's really cool. Really cool. It's been working out really good. So to those who got in on the email list, they got in at a drastically reduced rate. And I've been shaping this up until this point, and now it's grown into this. It's really cool. But honestly, like I said, that's going to be subjective because it's really based off of the person. You might take longer than another individual, vice versa. But I would definitely look at investing a good amount of time in there to get to know it at least. 𝗪𝗧𝗂𝗃𝗃991. Man, he's a first timer on the channel today, and he is like blowing the chat up. This is awesome. I love to see engagement in here. My favorite lately is 𝗵𝗵𝗍𝗀𝗀. That thing is such an inspiration machine. Definitely check it out. Okay, cool. He says it's so good, I'm really surprised it's free. I love free stuff. Like Cakewalk by BandLab. It's free, baby. Okay. Mob the Gamer says, I usually half-time it or change the pitch of a melody when I have one loop. That's a good idea. Very cool. Very good idea. And seeing that's another way of just yet again getting things to sound more human. He also says, I have 4 GB of RAM and it never stopped me from making music. Awesome. Yes, the camera did freeze. Pop Studios says, that's all I use is SSDs with a breakout USB up front so I can run 6 SSDs at once. Nice. Very nice. Okay, so 𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗧𝗿 says, what's sidechain or sidechaining? I keep hearing it from other videos, but never really knew what it meant. Okay, so we actually did cover that not too long ago in a live mix together. We do have a live video once every week, and it's usually on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Sometimes that varies. Or Thursdays and Saturdays, sorry. Sometimes it varies. Sometimes I pop on here just randomly. But basically what a sidechain, just sort of in a nutshell, is doing is basically it's taking one instrument or one group of instruments or one element, and it's telling a compressor to only work whenever that element or that sample or whatever it might be that you have sidechained to it triggers it. So they use this a lot with bass guitar and a kick drum. So they will put the compressor on the bass, and then they will sidechain that to the kick so that whenever the kick goes off, it initiates the compressor, which then turns down the bass. And then as soon as the kick is done kicking, it lets that compressor go, and now the bass is back up to full volume. So literally it just dips it down quick enough for that kick drum to come through. That's what sidechaining is. If you'd like to check that video out, I'm not really sure of the video. We've done so many of these, which video specifically. There is a playlist here, though, that's called HSS Live, and it covers all of our live mixing tutorials, EQ tutorials. We've had some really, really in-depth stuff on here. And I try to timestamp them. I don't timestamp them all the time, but I try to. So Mob the Gamer nailed it. He says, it's a great technique to mostly duck down frequencies or unwanted sounds to reduce muddiness. Very good point. Okay, so Ariska is just kind of explaining that again. Micah says, SSD rocks. Yes, it does. Yes, the image did freeze. Hopefully it's not frozen anymore. So 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃 says, my desktop has programs running from the SSD and files like audio on the regular hard drive, but I heard it should be the other way around. Yes, it should be. And the reason being is because your main audio drive or your main hard drive, your programs need to be from that, because that's going to be the quickest route for your RAM to work from. It's going to be the quickest route to pull from, because it's sort of the baked in hard drive where your OS is setting, or your operating system. The reason why the audio files need to be on a separate hard drive and why you want them flip-flopped is because if you ever get a virus on your main computer, 9 times out of 10, it won't affect your external hard drives that are connected. And so you don't lose files. That's one reason. Another reason is because sample libraries take up a lot of room. Audio files take up a lot of room, and the less amount of junk that you got cluttering up your main drive, the faster and more smoother your computer will run. All right. Mob the Gamer says, I started making music when I was 13 as well, and I used to record on my phone, play the beat on my friend's phone, and record with mine. Awesome. That's pretty much the same scenario. 𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗃 says, thanks for the sidechaining explanation. Good deal. Cakewalk is my go-to DAW now. Good deal. All right, so I think I've answered all the questions in the chat. Let's go ahead and dive into some more of the practical applications. So we've went through a few more of the tips. We went from 4 more. Let's do 1 more. So we got an even number of 5. Even 5. Who cares? It's even to me. So this one is going to be kind of a kick in the pants, for myself included, for everyone involved who's listening. Nobody cares about your work until they care about your work. So work on your craft, work on your mixes, work on your masters, work on your music, and just put it out. Get it out there. Don't worry so much, especially in the beginning, about how it sounds. Just get it out there, because the sooner you can start getting stuff out there, the sooner people are going to start to pick up on you. Now, I understand, I've been there before too, where you don't want to release something that sounds like trash. You don't want to muddy your name right off the bat and people to automatically get that first inclination of, oh, wow, it's that guy again. However, what you'll find is most of the time, people who like what you're doing can look past the amateur mixes. They can look past all of the amateur mastering. They can look past, but what they can't look past is an amateur song or an amateur production or an amateur lyric. So if you have good lyrics and you have a good production, the rest of that stuff is just kind of like icing on the cake. So work on your songwriting skills, work on your production skills, and get good productions, good songs put together with good feeling put behind them. And the other stuff will just kind of fall in place later. In fact, what you might find out is, and some people have even found this to be true, they went all out, spent all this time, trying to polish up their mixes and their masters just to find that people liked their old sound better. And so then they had to go back and rediscover, well, what did I do? So with all that being said, just really, the more that you get out there, the more that you release things, the more that it's going to build up your confidence, the more that it's going to help you in the long run by just releasing things. I know that kind of sounds almost counterintuitive, because you're like, well, I don't want to release trash. If you are releasing something that is the best that you can possibly get it at this point, then just release it and realize that that's the best you can possibly get it at this point. If nothing else, it's going to be awesome. And I've had this happen to me. It's going to be awesome whenever you go back, 2 years from now and you listen to that old mix versus what you're doing now. And you go, wow, I have really come a long way. That's like a shot in the arm. Or you never know. You might go back and be like, wow, that really wasn't as bad as what I thought it was. So I say all that to say, yet again, what I keep saying here on the channel is just do the work. Create a large body of work. It's going to help you more than anything. Okay. 𝗧𝗏 𝗧𝗏, another first timer. Good to see you here. Can Cakewalk like reduce background noises? Yes and no. There are options that you can use within Cakewalk with gain adjustments and things like that. There are plugins that come with Cakewalk that can kind of sort of do that, but it doesn't have like a noise removal. However, there's tons of free ones out there. I actually still use Audacity for this because it's free, and the noise reduction feature that it has within it is absolutely amazing. So if I have a noisy recording that someone has given me, I'll just fly it into Audacity real quick, remove the noise, and then fly it back into Cakewalk. But no, it does not have like a built-in noise reduction or noise remover. So Mob the Gamer says, let me pull this up on the screen because this is good. He says, nobody will care about how long it took you to create something. They will only care about the result. Exactly. Now, let me get this out there too. By me saying, release it, I'm not saying like rush through it, but what I am saying is don't hold on to it forever either. When you save your file and it's final mix number 173, it might be time to just go, okay, all right, I just need to release this. What I have noticed is if I work on a mix 2 hours and then I go back and I work on the mix another 5 hours, I almost always will go back to where the mix was 5 hours ago at the 2 hour mark. and have to start from scratch, because the longer you work on something, the more you can actually destroy and damage it. Whereas it would just be better to just kind of get it to that point, take a break, come back to it later, and then just say, okay, I'm done. And I do have a method by which to do that. If you have ever been around the channel long enough, you'll know that I have what's called a 15-step mixing process, which will help you to get through a song a whole lot faster. So, Bop Studio says, think of it as a band practiced a song and then finally takes to the stage. Yeah, it may be scary, but it must be done. Exactly. Exactly. Keith Lane is in the chat. What's up, Keith? Long time no see, buddy. Micah says, yep, Simple Simon, or so is feeling. All right, so let's dive in now to some of these production tips, the more hands-on production elements. So we're going to go through a song that I wrote several years ago. I think this was, I'm not even sure how long ago this was. This is probably going to be rather embarrassing, but here we go. It's all about teaching anyway. So let's go ahead and listen to the first portion of the song. And then what I'm going to kind of do, like I did last time, is we'll listen to a portion, then I'll break down what happened. And then we'll go through this whole tension release thing again, because that's where it's at. All right, so here we go. Let me make sure that the DAW will be able to be heard.
I've bit my tongue until it's bleeding. I've held my peace for far too long. This silence was but for a season, but the truth must be spoken, even if you think I'm wrong. Now, don't try to silence me no longer, 'cause in the end...
Okay. Hey, what's up, Mark? Mark, basically you just missed me rambling. Mike, internal or external SSDs in your opinion? My opinion would be both. Either one is fine. The internal SSDs are going to be less likely to get bumped or dropped or anything like that. The externals are going to be portable. So I would keep audio libraries, sample libraries, plugins that you might want to take to another studio or something like that. I would take those, you know, on the external, and then on your internal, use that mainly for your at-home sample libraries, plugins, things like that. So hope that made sense. Okay, so Mark, all you missed was basically I covered 5 more production tips, and now we're diving into the song and going over it. So what I want to talk about is, so you'll hear the first portion of the song started out just pretty sparsely populated. Bass guitar, acoustic guitar, a little bit of electric guitar, some bass. And the drums, you'll notice, were sort of pushed back. So not pushed back, they were up front, but they were, the presentation of the drums was not John Bonham style up in your face, just rah. They were tamed a little. Tame, that's what I was looking for. But then you'll notice on verse 1, part B, I'll call it that, verse 1A, verse 1B, you'll notice the drums change a little bit after the verse B part. So yet again, let's take a listen. Listen to the drums specifically.
I've bit my tongue until it's bleeding. I've held my peace for far too long. This silence was but for a season.
Okay. Now listen to how the drums change in verse.
Even if you think I'm wrong, now don't try to silence me no longer, 'cause in the end we all want to be saved. Your mistreatments made me stronger. You thought that I would fall, but I'm standing in the way. I don't need.
Okay, so what happened is in verse 1A, the drums were sort of tamed, pulled back. It was really just a boom, 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 boom. But then in verse 1B, you heard more toms. And so if you caught wind of the last one, what's happening? It's the tension. We're building the tension. So because this song kind of starts out punchy, boom, here we are. And this is going to keep popping up because this is a very old file and it's trying to read something that's no longer a part of it. So because it starts out real punchy and just bold, we got to do things to build that tension from that part. So even though it's punchy, it's bold, the drums, all this is coming in. Second part of that, we're going to add some elements of the toms on the drums to start building that tension, to start building that slow ramp up. And then whenever we get into chorus one, you're going to notice more instruments comes in and it gets very, very punchy. Boom, in your face. Okay. So let's start with verse 1, part B again. Loud noise in 3, 2, 1.
Cause in the end, we all want to be saved. Your mistreatments made me stronger. You thought that I would fall.
All right, now
but I'm standing in the way. I don't need to fear what man may do to me, for I know in whom I serve. And I don't need to fear what tomorrow may bring, for I know, yes I know, who can heal all the hurt.
Okay. So we get to the chorus. There are some different elements now that have been introduced in the chorus that were not in the previous parts of the verse. These are elements that will help to lift the chorus. You'll notice that the organ comes in. An organ is one of those things that, especially in rock songs, it is definitely one of those things that will help to lift a chorus. You'll notice as the song progresses, the only time the organ comes in is for the choruses. And it's literally just to give it that lift. It's not an element that you want playing, at least in this song, that I wanted playing throughout the entirety of the song, because then it's going to be taking up a lot of the frequencies. It's going to be taking up a lot of frequency real estate, so to speak. And I'm also going to be saving a lot of that for the end, which is going to be the crescendo. And we talked about this last time. So we're building up, we get to this chorus part, there's a lift, everything's lifted, and then you'll notice that just like last time we talked about this build, the tension, and then the release. So at the end of the verse, or at the end of the chorus, the release is boom, things drop out again, we come back down to where we were before, but now there's going to be a little bit of a change and a variation in the drums yet again. Okay? So let's listen to this. We'll go from the end of the chorus into the verse. Let's check it out.
I know who can heal all the hurt. Jealousy, it would seem, would consume you. So you tear down everything, throwing dirt, you're only losing ground. But to cover up yourself, you'd say anything.
Okay, that was verse 2A. So the first part of verse 2. You'll notice that the drums weren't dramatically different from what they were in verse 1A, but they also had this element just a little bit different hi-hat. So you'll notice it was sort of like a tss, tss, at certain times. Also, the electric guitars were brought up in volume just a little bit, and the acoustic guitars were dropped down just a little bit to start introducing more grit into the song, because now the song's getting more pointed. If you listen to the lyrics are getting more pointed. They're getting more growly. They're getting more like, yeah, I've got something to say. You'll also notice that on verse 2, we now have a backing vocal that's sort of like a harmony that's going along with verse 2. And when we get to verse 2b, there's going to be an introduction of a brand new electric guitar sound that's going to come in. Okay, so listen for that. We're going to go back to the beginning of verse 2. I want you to listen to verse 2a. Listen for that difference in the drums. Listen for the soundscape. And then when we get to verse 2b, listen for that new guitar part that's introduced. Okay? And you should hear that in the right side of the stereo field.
Jealousy, it would seem, would consume you. So you tear down everything, throwing dirt, you're only losing ground. But to cover up yourself, you'd say anything. I know it's hard to say I'm sorry when you live so far above sin. We may lie to the man in the glass, but we'll never lie.
Here comes the build.
We'll never lie to him. And I don't need to fear what man may do to me, for I know in whom I serve. And I don't need to fear what tomorrow may bring, for I know, yes I know, who can heal all the hurt.
Okay, so we spoke of last time this tension, this release, this ebb, the flow, the give, the take. And right before a crescendo, the best thing that you can possibly do for a production is to remove all elements of excitement. Give them something different to listen to. Give them something to space out on, that they almost forget that there's a crescendo is coming, so that whenever it hits, it almost jolts them. This is one of those things that some of the older producers and mix engineers were really good at. And that's why a lot of these individuals can really, their mixes and their productions can just grab you, because it's one of those things that the song's just entertaining, and it's why you want to listen to it over and over and over. So yet again, we're going to go back to the end of the second chorus here, and I want you to listen to what elements change up, what switches up. Do I give them room to breathe? What happens here? So check it.
Yes, I know who can heal all the hurt.
Hey, guess what we're doing? We're building tension. And here comes the release.
And I don't need to fear what man may do to me, for I know in whom I serve. And I don't need to fear what tomorrow may bring, for I know, yes I know, who can heal all the hurt.
Okay, So yet again, now this one doesn't have as many production elements, as, say, so to speak, as the last one did. So there's not as much to talk about here as there is. Mainly the main thing that I'm trying to get across with these is to just show you like some different ways of creating interest in your tracks, to give you like maybe sort of a different thought wave on how you might present things. Because by and large, a production is literally just that. You are presenting something to your audience. And so what we've done here is we've presented something that had a lot of give and take, something that was still punchy, growly. It had a message to get across, and I got it across, I think, pretty well. I had an individual comment on it who pretty much knew exactly where this was going, and he was like, dude, this is good. So with that being said, let's check out now some of these individual elements. I know Mark George asked me, he says, yes, you have a lot of, I see where you have a lot of your frozen tracks. Is there any way you can change the blue background? I think there is, but I've never tried, just because it's never really bothered me. It's one of those things that it allows me to see what's frozen and what's not. So I haven't really messed with it. For those of you who are new to Cakewalk, or maybe you don't know what Cakewalk is about, Cakewalk has the option to freeze tracks, which means everything that is on that track, all of the plugins, all of the automation, everything like that is baked into it. Whenever you freeze it, it basically creates a small mixdown of that track, and then it takes all of that CPU taxing stuff from the plugins and the automation and all that and just removes it, so that it's just basically a printed track. But you can then go back and unfreeze it and make any changes that you'd like. So essentially what it does is just free up a ton of CPU. So Keith Lane says, is it true that if you play that song backwards, you get the perfect method for making coffee? Well, I guess the secret's out. All right, guys, live stream's over. You know, there have been some rumors about that, but the perfect cup of coffee just doesn't exist. Or does it? This is where I need the... Okay. Anyway. But yeah, there's some different elements here that I wanted to bring up too, as far as this middle eight, as I've called it. Whether or not it's actually a middle eight. But essentially it is this ambient section. So check this out. Now, this is one of those things where, like I said a minute ago, you want to have sample libraries to pull from, because this literally came out of a sample library. It was from some sample pack from Acid Music Studio that I got years and years and years and years ago. So I literally pulled it into my DAW, pulled it into Cakewalk, tuned it to where it would fit in the tune, and there you go. By itself, not really too much, but when you play it in context with the rest of this, as we will.
Yes, I know who can heal all the hurt.
Pretty cool. Okay. So I know in the chat earlier, someone had mentioned something about some noise removal. You'll notice that I actually do have on this guitar track the RX Dialogue denoise that's taken away some of that high-end hiss from the amp. With that being said, the iZotope RX Elements pack is now on clearance. In fact, with 13 or 11 plugins total, it adds up to almost $1,600, and you're going to get them for $49. Not sponsored, but I'm telling you, it's a good deal. And it looks like I have effectively froze again. The computer just does not like my mug on the screen today, so I'm just going to take it off. Okay, so with that being said, the other elements that were added in right here, and this became something that was added in as well. And this is what I'm talking about with the sample libraries. This is a cymbal realism. There you go. So you add that in with the rest of the drums. And this is what you get. Nice. Okay, so here is a comment from someone here. He says, is there a real limiter in Cakewalk? Absolutely. In fact, with the newest update, there is a awesome limiter in Cakewalk that used to only be included in Cakewalk by BandLab, in Cakewalk Sonar, I should say. That's now included in Cakewalk by BandLab. So used to, this here was included with Cakewalk by BandLab. One of the best limiters I've ever used. Very transparent. It's awesome. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. I use it on every single mix. It made it into my 19 plugins I use on every mix list. But with the recent update to Cakewalk, we actually have some cool stuff going on here where we can insert a module in the Pro channel, and look, here it is. The 𝗶𝗂 leveler. It's a smaller version of the plugin I just showed you, now available, and it is literally a compressor and limiter. And what's cool about it is it's got this little RS7 or R57, I think it's RS7 knob right here. You can turn R37, sorry. And this will allow the color of it to change. So you can kind of change it to a more modern sound, or you can tune it back and get a little bit more of a flatter, old school sound, I guess is for lack of a better term. So yeah. Also, Cakewalk does have, let's see if I got it. I don't actually have it on the master bus now, but you can go to your dynamics limiters. Cakewalk also has the adaptive limiter, which this is, unless you have Sonar Platinum, you won't have access to this. This was an awesome, awesome limiting plugin that used to be included with it. Hoping to get it back soon. Talking with BandLab, trying to make sure that they revive these things because they were awesome. Yeah, someone in the chat's already commented on Boost. That's also a good one that comes with Cakewalk. But it's also one that you have to enable. Like it's not there when you first load it up. So, and then of course there's the Sonitus multiband, and you can use this as a limiter as well. You can use it as a multiband limiter if you'd like. You can only limit certain frequencies. So yeah, there's definitely options. Definitely options. And even the Sonitus compressor itself. Let me find that. even this here can be set as a limiter, as you can see right here. I'm really getting tired of that thing popping up there. And if you're just jumping on, you're wondering, why does that thing keep popping up? It's because I've opened up a project that's probably 13 plus years old, and Cakewalk is trying to find some icon or picture or something that's not included anymore. So not affecting the audio quality. That's all I'm worried about. Then, yeah, I think that answers that question. So yeah, there's definitely limiter options found within Cakewalk. So, all right, let's go back to Keith Lane says it's very subtle, not best for the EDM stuff. Yeah, that's why I like it so much. It's just really subtle, very transparent. So if you're looking for one, yeah, there's definitely one included. All right. Let's see here. Am I still frozen? Oh yeah, I'm still frozen in time. You know, crazy thing is that didn't start happening until I just updated OBS. So that's what happens when you update. All right. Let's take a quick look at these vocals. Specifically these background harmony vocals. Check these out.
Jealousy, it would seem.
That was it. Nothing too major. There is no ability to freeze a bus track that I know of. The freeze option is not even available on the bus track. So, with that being said, I believe the answer is no. However, typically because most of your tracks are going to the buses, it's not really that big of a deal. Especially if, you know, you don't have a lot of plugins on your buses. Okay, let's see here. Tall someone. Hey, that's a first timer. And Captain Odd, if you haven't already got your introduction. I've seen Gaming Zone around here before, so cool. Tall someone says, can you quickly say how you used the Drummer S73? Yeah. Okay. So, man, I love this plugin. It's another plugin that has made it to my 19 favorite plugins list. I have done a review of it here on my channel. But basically it's just it's a compressor, but it's an intelligent master processor compressor. It does things that other compressors just don't do. So basically it has these different style settings, and the way that I used them on this mix and the way that I predominantly used to use them all the time, when I first got the plugin, I probably overdid it, but I used it in tandem. So I would use one of them, like so, with Clarity 1 enabled, and then the other with Clarity 2 enabled. And it just helped to allow the bass to pop through, and it allowed the vocal to sit on top without doing a whole lot of anything. And I just threw that right on the master bus, and just would blend it with the mix knob here, blend it to taste. So really there's not really too much. It's really not too mystical on how to use this thing. I mean, you really only have like so many knobs that you can use. But basically you have your amount knob here, which is your amount of compression that's being applied. Then you have this air. When it's applied, you get a little bit more of a high-end sheen. These here, they're pretty self-explanatory, really. But my favorite part about this is that after you do all this, you can then mix it wet or dry. And it also has an output gain, which is very, very cool. So yeah, one of my favorite plugins, definitely. Been using it for years now with good results. The Gaming Zone, he has a question here. He says, so when I'm using the Sonotest compressor to compress stuff, I have to disable the limiter. You know what? Just use your ears. If using the limiter still gets you a good sound, go for it. If you're wanting to do more compression versus limiting, then yeah, disable it. Yeah, the S73 is definitely a quick fix plugin. I found out to be true. Captain Odd, he's got a question here. He says, any tips on guitar amp sims? Absolutely. So guitar amp sims can be a little bit tricky to mix into a mix because they have sort of their own reverbs built into them, reverbs that you can't necessarily take out. These are usually convolution style reverbs. So getting them to set into a mix sometimes can be a little bit harder. My tip for that, though, is to record a DI along with the amp sim, and then that way you can get like a blend of the two, and you can dial back the amp simulation and just use it as a reverb, if that makes sense. Can we change the size of the plugin window when we open it? Because sometimes small plugins have a lot of free space on the right side. Yes, you can. So actually, now that you brought that up, the drummer, if they come up like this, you can literally just click and drag that back over. Now, not all plugins have the ability to be resized like this, though. And it's going to kind of look a little glitchy because I got a screen recorder going, but some plugins will not allow you to do that. Like, for instance, the 𝗂𝐴. See, you can only change the background or make it smaller. Like, basically, it's like a cropping instead of a grow and shrink. But a lot of the T-Rax plugins, these things are awesome because you can literally make them as big as you want on their screen. Look at this. You can make this thing massive if you want. Oh no, Godzilla. T-Rax, Godzilla, get it? Anywho, I got jokes. Okay, so we've went through a lot of these production elements. Now let's go through. So we listened to, here's where we were at.
But we'll never lie. We'll never lie to him.
Okay, so this was just behind the lead vocals. That was by itself. Let's listen to it with the lead vocals.
Jealousy, it would seem, would consume you. So you tear down everything.
Okay.
We may lie to the man in the glass, but we'll never lie. We'll never lie to him. And I don't need to fear what man may do to me for.
Okay. So as you can see, that definitely helped the lead vocals, especially during that place right there, to sound a little different, give a little bit of a different feel, a little bit of a different jive, get to sit on top a little better. And of course, the delays definitely helped to fill in the dead space before the build. So these are all just sort of production tips, tricks that you can use to take your productions to the next level. Let's take a listen to these lead vocals soloed out here again.
I've bitten my tongue until it's bleeding. I've held my peace for far too long. This silence was but for a season, but the truth must be spoken, even if you think I'm wrong. Now, don't try to silence me no longer, 'cause in the end, we all want to be.
All right, so what you'll notice is I got a little bit of reverb on there, not too awful much, but some reverb, and I have a patch point, okay? You probably haven't seen me use patch points on the show very much, but this patch point is basically like a send, but it's being patched into this vocal thickening down here. And it's got 5th up left and a 5th up right. And I'm using 𝗏𝗏 to do that. And just kind of curious. Yeah, 𝗏𝗏 will not allow you to grow it either. So the patch points are going to the left and to the right here. I've got one patch point going to both sides. And excuse me, I'm about to lose my voice. And both sides are doing a rich 5th. And that's what you're hearing. So if I was to solo these,
I've bitten my tongue and
It's bleeding.
by themselves, sound like trash.
I've held my peace for far too long. This silence was but for a season.
Okay. But when you put them in context with the lead vocal,
I've bitten my tongue until it's bleeding. I've held my peace for far too long.
take them out. And this is what
This
you get.
silence was but for a season, but the truth must be spoken, even if you think I'm wrong. Now, don't try to silence me no longer.
All right. So, looks like we got a question here from 𝗟𝗶𝘶, which, by the way, I believe is a first timer. Good to have you here, buddy. We love our first timers around here. So he has a question, which actually this is a good question because I've had this happen before, and I had the same question myself. What in the world is going on? So there will be times whenever you have some tracks that are sent to a bus, and then you solo the bus, but you don't hear anything. Why is that? Okay, so if you send tracks to a bus and you don't hear anything, it's normally because you have the bus soloed, but the track is not soloed with the bus. So you're soloing a silent output, basically, until you give credence to the track itself. So, and some of that is just simply because it might be set on pre-fader or post-fader. And as you can see on this one here, it's set post-fader. So if I was to, let's see, this is going to reverb short. Let's take a listen. I'm only soloing the bus. Okay. That wasn't really a good example though, because that's a frozen track. And I think frozen tracks are, by nature, are going to be there. Here we go. Let's go here.
I know it's hard to say I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's usually just It's usually just an option that it's like a routing thing, usually. And like if you try to solo a bus and you can't hear something coming from that bus, 9 times out of 10, just go and find the track and solo it as well, and you should hear it through the bus. I think the reason why that wasn't working like I thought it was because the effects bin was set as post as well. At any rate, right, there we go. He's on it. Pre-fade sends will solo in a bus without soloing the source tracks. There we go. Clear as mud, right? Okay. Well, we have covered quite a bit on the show today. And although I would like to see these things go on forever, all good things have to come to an end. I hope that you learned something in today's production elements part 2. If you did, let me know. 𝗪𝗀 𝗂𝗃, that's a good one too. That could be definitely another option. Maybe the bus is not sent anywhere. That sometimes is the case as well. And the thing about that is you'll still see the fader moving as if it was getting sound, but it's not going anywhere. So yeah, it's receiving sound, but it's not giving sound. So, okay. So at any rate, we have, oh, I'm so tired. We have covered a lot in a short amount of time. I'm losing my voice. Ever wish you could EQ sends? Well, technically you can. You can put an EQ at the top of the chain, wherever you're sending it to. But yeah, we've covered a lot, and I hope that you guys got something out of it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. I would like to see that. Keith Lane, he wants to know who's judging the mixing competition. We have 𝗟𝗟 𝗠𝗶𝘅 YouTube channel, Ed Thorne, and Chris Knowles, and myself. We are all judges on this, and I'm telling you what, it's not going to be easy. A lot of good submissions. We're going to try to narrow it down to just one, which is going to be very hard. So that the choosing of the winner will probably not take place till the end of the month to give everybody time to listen to all the mixes. And then the winner will be announced, I would say probably like around the 1st of July. That way we've given ample time for everybody. So, but yeah, I've seen your submission, Keith, and I'm telling you, we got some awesome talent in this community. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump on over to something that we have not yet done. Let's give some shout outs to some cool individuals who have recently subscribed. Thank you, Josh Batson. Thank you, Kermit Long. Thank you, 𝗧𝗍. Thank you, somehow 𝗬𝗍. Glenn Dawson, Lincoln Weber, Rainboy Benjamin. These are individuals on the bottom here who have followed on the YouTube page, or the Facebook page rather. Thank you all so much. You all are awesome. Greatly appreciate that. And now, without further ado, let's turn this over to 𝗚𝗄𝗅 𝗧𝗍𝗪. Holy smokes, why does it look that way? That's not supposed to look that way. Wow. Man alive, what an update can do. Okay, there we go. That's looking a little more normal. Okay, that's looking a little more normal. There we go. Now we're looking good. Woo! Yes, that is correct, Sony. All right. Yeah, we just recently updated OBS, so we had a few hiccups here. But Casey's not affected, so go ahead, Casey, and step on here. While Casey is announcing the Wheel of Awesomeness here, we are going to take a short break. So go ahead and take it away, Casey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is 𝗪𝗂 𝗧𝗵𝗃 bringing you the Wheel of Awesomeness. Robert just about lost his voice today because all he does is ramble. That's right, he's a rambling, bumbling... Uh-oh, he's coming back. I'm just going to spin the wheel now. Yeah, never mind what I was getting ready to say.
Casey, what were you saying while I was gone? Guys, I don't know what's going on with Casey anymore. I can't trust the guy. Leave him alone for 5 minutes. I don't even know. Last time he threw me under the bus about something I didn't even do. Who knows what he said this time? Now I just got to figure out a way to spin the wheel. Oh, man. Here we go. All right, so we're going to spin the wheel. I've officially taken the microphone back from Casey because he's trying to pull some stunts again. But yeah, we're going to officially spin the wheel, and then we're going to see where the wheel lands, and wherever the wheel lands, that's what we're going to do. So thanks, Casey, for nothing.
You're welcome, you bumbling idiot.
Yeah, Casey, get it. I don't even know why people like 𝗪𝗂 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Get out of here. All right. Let's see. Where did the wheel land? A tutorial request. Good deal. All right. So if any of you in the chat have a video tutorial request you would like to make, go ahead and leave that in the comment section now, and it will be in my radar as something I need to create. Before we leave today, I would also like to give a quick shout out to an individual who has a song that won a song feature the last time we were all together. So let's go ahead and switch it over to that so we can actually check that out. So the song title is Timekeeper by Gordon Grunow. Now, if you were here on the last live stream, we spun the Wheel of Awesomeness and he won a song feature. So let's go ahead and check his song out now. I'm going to go ahead and close out Cakewalk so that's not to interfere. Okay. Nice.
Working steel mills up in Cleveland and assembly lines in Detroit.
Nice.
Mining coal down in West Virginia. Working hard day and night. Timekeeper, our time is in demand. Working away in the USA with an eye on the second hand.
Almost has
Wheat
a
growers out in Kansas, tending fields at the crack of dawn. Cattle ranchers down in Texas, Uncle Sam don't steer us wrong. To all the thinkers and the doers, and those of us who labor long, making music on the back streets so everybody can sing along. Timekeeper, our time is in demand. Working away in the USA with an eye on the second hand. Whoa, timekeeper, our time is in demand. Work it away in the USA with an eye on the second hand. Keeping time. Time keeper.
Nice.
Keeping time. Time keeper. Stand in line for unemployment, where everybody's got the blues. Bankers wheel and deal our fortunes, and you slip for credit due. Keeping time, time keeper. Keeping time, time keeper. Keeping time, time keeper. Keeping time, time keeper. Keeping time, time keeper.
Nice. So that was Gordon Grunau's song feature, Timekeeper. Very cool. I like the song a lot. It definitely was leaning a little to the left on the speakers. That was not a streaming issue. That was just the way that the track was exported out. But the song itself was really good. That was one of those instances, like I talked about earlier, though, where the song was good, the arrangement was good. So I was able to overlook that whole leaning to the left a little easier because I like the song. Very cool, though. Reminds me a little of the Doobie Brothers. Yeah, I was going to say Allman Brothers, or what's the band I was thinking of? Starts with an S. No. What's the name of that band? I don't know. It was right there on the tip of my tongue too. I hate it when that happens. Anywho, that's going to drive me nuts. SFX, first timer. Good to have you here, buddy. Thank you so much for stopping by. We do this every single week, by the way. This is something we do every single week. We go live. We do mixing tutorials. This time was a production tutorial. We take tutorial requests. As we can see here, let's see who's given some. I'd like for you to try a tutorial on step sequencer because it's so not you. Yes, you are correct, Keith. That will probably be the last tutorial I ever do. I'm just not a MIDI guy, but actually it would be good for me to kind of stretch my wings and try, though. A tutorial on mixing acoustic guitars. That would be cool. No, not Steely Dan. I was thinking, what is the name of that band? That's going to drive me nuts. I want to think it's like Steve Miller Band. Ooh, there it is. Whew, my sometimers kicked in there. At any rate, thank you all so much for showing up today. Thank you once again, everyone, for being just an awesome community. If there are tips and tricks that you'd like to know more about when it comes to mixing, mastering, production, anything that has to do with making your music sound better, check it out here on the channel. Give this channel a subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and be sure to share this channel with your friends if you have individuals who are wanting to make music. And in the words of one of my favorite videographer YouTubers, let's give him a...
Found this video informative or at least entertaining, and if you did, make sure you drop it the old thumbs up. But if you did not find this video informative or entertaining, feel free to hit the dislike button twice. All right, I'm done. Guys, did you guys ever use 𝗠𝗶𝘅? You sad that it's shutting down? Find this video informative or entertaining, feel free to hit the dislike button.
Tell me if this sounds
twice.
like anybody.
All right, I'm done. I liked 𝗠𝗶𝘅, I used it a lot. I did do a lot of like, no, ooh, no, ooh, no, ooh, that's interesting, I'll share that. So
Yes, I'm being a little facetious. Does that sound like anybody you know? Hit the dislike button twice. All right, guys. Love y'all. Gotta go. To each and every one of you who have been in here, Stoney, Buckner, first timer. Sounds like the song Sweet Home Alabama. Yeah. I'm finding it hard to get off of here today. Sorry. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for stopping by once again. Yet again, if you have any questions, you can email me at @gmail.com. Also, be sure to check out, like I said, the YouTube channel. There are a ton, I mean a ton of tutorials here on the channel. You'll notice here on the top, you can go to the videos. You're going to get access to all of the videos that I've put out. If you go to playlists, there's actually specific playlists just for this kind of thing. So with the 5S video series, you're going to get simple shareable solutions to help save you time, get you better sounding mixes in 5 minutes or less. So if you're in a hurry, that might be a good place to go. I also am collaborating with other YouTubers to build that playlist up. I have some awesome interviews with individuals like Warren Hewart, Graham Cochran, Joe Gilder, mastering engineer Matt 𝗚𝗶𝘶, all kinds of cool stuff there. I also have an entire playlist of Cakewalk tutorials, 43
grammar and
videos.
spelling?
I don't want to see that. 43 videos, as you'll see right here. Look at this. Nothing but Cakewalk tutorials. So if you are interested in learning more about music production, especially learning music production with Cakewalk by BandLab, this is the place to be. However, whatever DAW that you're using, you will find something useful here. This is also a really cool community of individuals who are working together to make music and make each other better. So until next time, remember, we can dream alone, we can create alone, but together we can achieve so much more.